Hello everybody and welcome to my new floral photography video. Today I am going to be photographing some Hepatica nobilis, otherwise known as liverwort flowers. We have a few of these grown in a container in our garden and they're really pretty, very tiny and very delicate little flowers there. So I've got a little video just to show you what they're like outside. Here they are growing in the corner of the garden, and I'm getting a little bit distracted by that pretty little ladybird. But you can see how small they are. That gives you a little bit of scale having the ladybird in there. So I brought some into the studio there, and I'm going to photograph them on my A7 III camera with the Sony 90mm macro lens. I've placed one of them in a vase and held it sturdily in place with that essential piece of kit, blue tack. I've placed one of my out of focus backgrounds behind the subject there, just attached to a piece of card. And in front here, we've got a microscopy stand with a piece of perspex on. And this is really handy because you can adjust it just the tiniest little bit, little amount to go up and down in your frame. And on that, I've placed some foil and some petals, which are going to create our bokeh in the front. To the right here, I've got a small diffuser, and that is held in place on a crocodile clip attached to a helping hand. Now, the reason I'm using this is that I'm using Studio Flash, and whilst the scene is set inside a tent, a light tent really, and I'm using studio lights which are pointed at the ceiling, that means the light will bounce around and give a very diffused light. However, I didn't want any really harsh bokeh on the foil, so that's protecting that a little bit from the light. So you can see the whole scene set up there. So because I'm using Studio Flash, I've got my settings on shutter speed of 1/60th of a second, and it's on ISO 50. I want a shallow depth of field for the bokeh, so I'm shooting at f3.2 for this one. And this is the result, which I think you'll agree is quite nice and pleasing. It's not exciting though. It's got a little bit in focus in the centre of the flower, which is precisely what I wanted. But to improve on this, I need to play a little bit more with my bokeh and set the scene a little bit more. This kind of blends a little bit too much with the purpley coloured background for me. So moving on from here, I swapped over backgrounds and I used another one that was taken out in my garden. Here you can see I chose more of a yellowy colour to enhance the bluey colour of the flowers. Now my background is an out of focus lavender in the garden on a sunny day. That's why it's so yellowy with the purples. You can see I've added some cherry blossoms to the left-hand side there on a helping hand. A little bit more foil and a few more petals and flowers there. A second flower on a helping hand. And a third flower, which is an anemone from our garden, held again by another helping hand. Everything's still within the light tent. And I'm continuing to use the same camera and the same 90mm macro lens. I've changed my aperture, but everything else has stayed the same. This time I'm shooting at f4.5 to get just a little bit more of the centre of the flower in focus. I don't want the whole flower in focus. I want it to be dreamy. And I think you can agree this has turned out quite nice and dreamy. You can see there on the left, you've got the out of focus cherry tree blossoms and with a bit more foil on the foreground there. That's really nice and pleasing. And the out of focus anemone in the background just sort of gives you a feel that you're in a garden and there's more flowers about there. This stalk at the front sort of leads in like a leading line straight up to your main flower. And you've got that nice little bit in the centre there in focus. So I'm really happy with this one. I quite like it. And I love the combination of the yellowy green with the bluey purple of the flowers there. So to move on from this and improve on it, I thought I would use some focus stacking because you can see only a tiny amount of the centre is in focus. And I don't want to change my aperture. I want to keep the foreground and the background as they are in these photos. So the way around it is to use focus stacking and keep my aperture low. Now, for those of you new to focus stacking, what you do is you'll choose your starting point that you want to take a photo of, and you move forward. You take a photo, you move forward a tiny bit, take another photo, move forward a little bit more and take another photo. And when you've taken all of these photos, you put them together in a focus stacking software such as Helicon, and that'll combine them all and you will retain the nice dreamy background. However, the centre, so much more of that will be in focus, which I will show you a focused stacked shot. And this one is 43 photos, still using f3.2, but you can really tell the difference. Every bit of this is in focus. And I started so many at the front of these stamens. And look at the details, the tiny details on these absolutely minute stamens. So it's well worth doing. Now I'm still using my Sony a7 III. However, it doesn't have the focus bracketing in camera. So to get around that, I place my camera on top of a wee macro rail, and it's an automated rail. You can see I've kept my setup pretty much the same, using all the same techniques there. And I've barely changed it at all. And this here underneath is the rail. And it does make it a little bit higher up, so you do have to adjust things. That's where this microscopy stand comes in handy. So using this rail is super helpful. And it's just really handy that it comes with an app on your phone and you can add in all of the details, such as which camera you're using, i.e. whether you're using a crop sensor or a full frame camera. You can tell it the magnification you're doing. You can tell it the aperture that you're using, and it will calculate it'll help you to calculate the distance between each photograph so that they overlap ever so slightly and you don't have blur anywhere in that central area that you want to keep in focus. So once you've input all of those details, you just set it away on your phone. You don't even need to touch your camera. And it will take a photo in a moment and show you. There you go. So that's your focus stack of 43 images there. And I did take another one there. This one, because I'd moved the flower to face me, I didn't need quite as much depth. So therefore it only took 16 photographs to get all of that in focus. So that is the end of that video for now. I will, however, be covering focus stacking in more detail in the future because I have been asked to. And next up, I'm going to be trying to make some submerged flower photography videos to give you a few tips and help people learn how to do it. So I'll say goodbye for now and thank you very much for watching. And if you do enjoy my videos, I very much appreciate it if you would subscribe and give my video a like as well. Thanks now, bye.